Good day, everybody. This is Lone Eagle 112358. Peace. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it so very, very, very much. Really do. Today's Monday. It's a special edition. I don't usually have shows on Monday, but this week I have dentist surgery tomorrow, so I cannot be with you. But thankfully, we have a special guest today who's willing to come on and be with us today, and his name is Philip Druznin. He doesn't need a big intro. A lot of you know who he is. A lot of us are into the mud flood community, Tartarian Empire community, free energy, giants, everything like that. So I'm going to start off. We're just going to get this show started off quickly. There won't be any shout outs until after probably Philip leaves us. We have 1 hour exactly, or give or take some wiggle room there. But so we're just going to get right into the show. So I'm going to explain. I'm just going to shoot what I know, and then Philip's going to jump in and maybe fill in some of the blanks while I try and get my cat out of here.
I got 3 of them.
Oh, you have 3 cats? Awesome.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Did they always jump on live with you?
It's not awesome anymore. It was awesome the first day that they had.
Nice. Yeah.
No.
I get one cat always in the show, wants to be live, wants to be heard and seen. So it's a regular thing. Now they're all in here. Yeah, they're all here.
Yeah. Nice
all right. So if you want to say hi to everybody, this is Philip Druznin. Phil, if you want to say hi to everybody.
Yeah, please. Everybody, hello. I'm from Russia, from Moscow. I'm living in the snow. As you know, we have a bunch of snow in Russia. So hi, everybody.
Yes, we have a lot of snow here too. And tonight and tomorrow night, we're getting 10 centimeters. So I guess that's 3 inches, 5 inches. And then tomorrow, the same thing. And then the same thing again the next day. And last week, we got about 20 centimeters within a day. So it's been snowing a lot here. Has it been snowing a lot there in Moscow?
Yeah, we had a record-breaking snow like in Saturday. So it was like total unconditional weather. I don't know how to say that.
Do you remember what the snowfall was for the record-breaking day?
I'm not really sure because they just said it was record-breaking Moscow snow ever. So we have to believe the propaganda, but yes. I felt it by myself, so I can confirm it. So it was pretty bad.
And what's funny is that I was talking about this on my live stream. I'll just make this quick because we're talking about the weather. Is that I watch the weather here regularly in Ottawa. I grew up here in Ottawa my whole life. We were deemed the coldest capital in the world. I was like, that's impossible. Moscow's higher than us in altitude. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are higher up near the Arctic Circle, like more closer to that. And I just found that confusing. I'm like, they should have the record for coldest capital, but you don't. Canada does. It's weird. Anyhow, so I'm going to get right into this show, everybody, because I don't want to waste this time here. But I'm going to open up with what I know about the Tartarian Empire, because I invited Philip onto this channel to help educate not just myself, but everybody else. And I'm going to be upgrading from this and taking this information and running with it later. So I'll say everything that I know about the Tartarian Empire. How long has it been around for? I cannot say. I haven't really heard a quotation, anybody showing pure evidence of how long they've been around, but I would start with minimum 500 years, considering the amount of territory that they've covered, that we've seen on old maps. I'll share that with you later. Basically, this empire that was worldwide, it seems like it was. I'm going to look into that some more later. And it seems like it was a worldwide thing where everybody was living in unity and peace. There probably was some conflicts, but they were settled a lot different than we see today. So I refrain from using the one world culture or anything like that, but something along those lines where cultures were integrated with each other and trade was made a lot easier, along with technology being in harmony with one each other. You know what I mean? I believe that during this time of Tartarian, that energy was readily available for everybody and no one suffered, and it was a good place, a good time to be. This is what I'm feeling and getting from videos that I'm watching. The main territory areas that I've seen have been in Eurasia, mostly Russia, all over Europe, all parts of Europe, from the maps I've seen anyway. And I have seen encampments and campaigns in a 1587 North American map. So there's actually a settlement of Tartarian. You can see the tents in North America. So as far as territory, I would say they were probably, their main territory was somewhere in Russia with encampments all over the world. I agree with some people that there was some kind of you'd reference to a gentleman's video called Jeff. I forget the name of the video, but he had said that the enemy, the parasite, is within, and we have to fight it. And I believe that's what helped bring that whole empire down, tied with technologies that we are unaware of or coming to light now, such as mud flood, with the use of maybe fascies or whatever is out there. We see this out there. We see Martin Flat Earth, British talk about these things. So, and then basically, when you have this empire come down, and then in comes mud flood, and all of a sudden the whole world is just standing still. You have the Earth reset, and that's other things after that. I don't know if I want to get into that right yet, but I would say, kill all the old people, replace them with new people, retell a whole history, then have them push that. But that's something else. So that's pretty much what I know about Tartaria. Amazing technology worldwide. Everything I just said there. So basically, we're going to start off with talking about territories and what is the empire. And I'm going to have Philip jump in now and talk a little bit about that and fill in the blanks. Please, sir.
Yeah, Tartaria was not the only empire that we know. So before the Tartaria, there was a lot bigger empire, which was actually one and only empire. And all the rest of the empires that we know are just fake empires. They're empires that imitating the first one. So the first one was called, in some sources it was called Rosh, in some sources it was Rush, in some sources it was called Rus. So the specific of this empire was it was powered by gas. So it was the main resource that they mined, and they had all those bases worldwide, as we know. I'm going to be presenting it in one of my further videos, how the gas mining relates to creating the star forts. But if we simplify this information to a couple of points, it's that the star forts were the previous gas mining fracking stations, and they had those gas stations as a developing point of the city, which could be powered by gas, which could have the illumination with gas, and which could be heated with gas and have the production via gas, amid gas, whatever you call it. So it's a productional center and the point of energy. And they knew the gas was ecological, because after the use of gas, we have only CO and the water, which is the vapor. So this is the only byproducts that they had, and they used the gas just for that, because it was simply the most ecological resource. But also miners had the union that was called the trading union, and that union was called so-called Atlantis. In many different resources, they stick to one name, but actually, what is Atlantis? Atlantis is anagram or a short name for ants. So ants were the leading force of Atlantis. Ants are also the insect, which is very highly likely intellectual insect, which creates colonies and all this stuff. And that's why ants is the synonym to the name of those folks, that tribe, or whatever you call it. So that tribe was also concurrent with the Russian Empire, and they had this conflict because they were like gods for them, but ants were like titans. And we have this name Titans coming out as a legend when the gods were fighting the titans. And this is actually the war that was between the Russian Empire and the Atlantis Trade Union, which ended up with a total tragedy for the world. And therefore the revolution, because the empire was broke and many different parts separated from it. And that's where Tartaria comes out, because it was the biggest piece of the broken empire, and they came together with the Vedic knowledge and all those freedom of religions there, and also had multinational complex geographical position. So even China was a part of it, Japan was a part of it, North America was a part of it, and some even say that some part of South America was a colony of Tartaria. Not the colony, but the part of Tartaria, because they didn't have any colonies. That's the principle of their geographical position, and they didn't have any colonies. All the tribes were united by one idea, the idea of following the culture or the cult of the previous empire, which was the cult of the local tribes, and all the local tribes had their powers and their ancestor powers, which were respected by the others, and they didn't fight for that reason. But the Atlantis Empire was confronting with, opposing them with this idea of different religions, and they implanted religions into Tartaria. But Tartarians were so advanced in this spiritual knowledge of ancestors that they even could take those religions and, how do you call it, proceed them inside of them and not even harm themselves. They were so highly spiritual. That's why the only reason for Atlantis was to kill the Tartaria as an empire. So they split it, each slice after another, and they cut the empire, and they cut all the roots, and they cut all the lands that were on the outside. And then we see what we see in the 17th century, when we have Tartaria only in Eurasia and maybe some Northern American parts. No Europe anymore. Only in Europe we have a huge part of Tartaria, which was Russia, and they sliced it from the Tartaria also and made it a Western type of civilization. So those guys were called the Holy Roman Empire, and then they pulled the Roman history towards them, and they pulled the ancient Greek mythology, Roman mythology, and the Catholic branch of Christianity, and created the huge empire, which was killing the Tartaria, and they did a good job, and they erased it. Totally.
Are you saying the ants are the Holy Roman Empire?
So yeah. Okay. Ants were so-called Aryans were also ants, because ants are white race that was located in current North Italy, Austria, Switzerland, Poland, Ukraine, and Black Sea. So so-called Scythians were also ants. So ants were the main human resource for that power. So they were attacking the West. They conquered the West, and then they were attacking the East, because they were split from the East after these catastrophic wars, and so became the enemy of each other. So that's what the fight, and it was the fight between. Actually, it was well known, and we know it as the Crusades and all this stuff. This was before, and it was after the war, the huge war that was before the Crusades, the war between Titans and the gods, which could be used even huge energy weapons like fasces or whatever we call them. We call them fasce, the destroyer or nuclear type of weapon, when we have a huge explosion and a crater which has all the signs of bombardment or whatever you call it. So it's an explosion weapon, and all those craters are all around Russia. We see those carpet bombing marks. We see the huge craters, which people call nuclear bombs, but who knows what was actually the explosive in these bombs? But the signs are very, very, very distinguishable.
So those craters, do they leave like crater marks, or are they just perfectly flat with the land?
Yeah, we have two types of craters, right? First one is the crater with the ground explosion, which we can see on only testing nuclear sites, like in Kazakhstan. We can see it in from the pictures that people taken them when they had the excursions and watched those craters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the nuclear test site. So we see this ground explosion, but those explosions that we see near our towns, near our cities, they look like air explosions. So air explosions is different because it doesn't have such deep crater.
Yeah.
It has it like not very deep, and it has it totally flat. So it's flat in the area, and it has like a little hill in the center, right in the middle of this circle.
Really?
Yeah, because the air is sucking in, and it's like bringing all this dirt towards the center, and it has a little hill. So we had a bunch of those, and we marked those.
That's very interesting because I know some spots right away that popped up in my head that look like that. There's very large areas in the Southwest and near probably Utah. And like I'm talking a very mass area where it looks like that. There's this mountain ranges like this, and in the middle there's this really small mountain. I'm like, where did that come from? That little pile of dust. What you're saying makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna probably.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of pictures of the United States with those stuff, and yeah, you have them. You have them.
I'm just gonna switch screens here, but
the whole area you call them prairies or Wild West, whatever you call them. It's just I've been there. I've been in Wyoming. I've seen those areas. They look totally destroyed.
All right, so what I'm going to do is just going to repeat all that back. So the Rush, you called it Rush or Roosh Empire? Okay.
In the Bible, it was called R-O-S-H, Rosh.
Rosh. Okay.
Something like this. It was pronounced, and we have different Bibles. Russians and British have different Bibles. So it was called. It was marked in the war of Gog versus Magog and all this stuff. So it's like. Close to those chapters, so you can find the reference on that. So, but we called it Rus because all this name is called Midgard or Rus. Midgard is a Nordic name. Rus is Russian name. So it's like,
So you have this Rush Empire gas powered, which I find really funny. We're gas powered. You know what I mean? So. They're gas powered, they gas mining, the fracking stations. You believe the star forts are hub stations for gassing or for gas mining? You believe that's what the star forts are?
When they do a vertical drilling, this is just one type of mining. But when they have a fracking, they have it's like in the lines from the center. That's how it's more ecological because then don't cover all their area. They can do it in this way. So after they do the drilling, they put some whatever you call it, instrument or little station. It's not that high, it's low, and it's not even visible from the distance. So and it can pump the gas in automatic regime, and so you have the pipelines, and you can collect the gas from this wide area and transfer it for long distances. So if you have a purpose to build a city, you might as well use one of those gas lines and build a city right nearby, because fracking uses water. So a city near water is a good idea when you have it also with the resource of the gas, which is unlimited. And you don't have to pay for this resource, right? You have all this energy and you have water. So it's a great place to build a city.
So what year is this then we're talking about with the Rosh Empire then?
As what I can calculate, so it was before the Tartaria. So the first time we see Tartaria appear on the maps is like 14th, 15th century. So the Rosh was probably before that. So I think it was before the era when the Christ was named as a god, and that was 13th century. So we're probably talking about the 12th, 11th or 10th century, something like this, or maybe even before.
Okay.
Because we have this lack of information in medieval times only because of this transfer that they had between the two empires, the two type of political manipulation or leading this place, right? So the controllers were splitting since the fall of the empire. They were splitting the countries, and they cut in all the slices, and we see like the process is still continuing.
Oh yeah, for sure. It will never stop. That's just how it is on this place. So you're saying, okay, they mined the gas, they used it to get power, to light, the heat. There was a miners' union called the Atlantis Union.
No, that was the trading union. It was in concurrence with the mining, but mining was all the resources were traded, so they were probably in the same management system.
Okay.
Because it was a corporation.
Yes, definitely. This was Atlantis, which equals ants. And then the next thing you said really caught my attention. You said Tartarian is the biggest piece of a broken empire.
Yeah.
And you were just talking about how they keep breaking it down. That's very interesting. I never even heard or thought about that. Do you have anything to add to that part? Like they're the biggest.
Yeah. The biggest problem is when people try to distinguish a Tartarian architectural style and pointing on each and every building of before 19th century and saying this is Tartarian style. We also have the Holy Roman Empire style, which was imitating this Roman culture and producing those fake artifacts. But at the same time, they were so Christianized and were having Catholic Church as a major power, leading spiritual power in the country. But on the other side, they were building the architectural style with the pagan gods and all those Greek gods and Roman gods on the buildings, right? So it's like really weird to hear that, but this is the conflict of this information. So this is what this could happen only in one situation, when the Christians were occupying the ants culture. So it's like the changing of the paradigm and not like murdering the actors. So it's like you were pagan one day and you become Christian, you become baptized and you become a Christian. That's why they were not in such a conflict. So they didn't erase all the pagan information from pagan design from their buildings. And this is the conflict because people trying to show the neo-Russian style and call it Tartarian. This is okay. When you see something in Russian, call it Tartarian style, this is okay for me. But when you point at the antique building and saying that this is a Tartarian building, doesn't sound very good for me, and this gives the material for those critics that call us BS fake researchers, right?
Okay. Because that's very important, because people, including myself, I'm really glad you said that. We really need to differentiate buildings between Tartarian and Romans and everything else, because I've always gotten confused by pillars, by brick buildings, and I see a lot of different channels saying, oh, it was this and it was this time and that time, and I catch myself repeating this. I'm like, wait, I got to stop this because I'm hearing different stories. I don't want to do this anymore. And that's why I started inviting people such as yourself to come on here. But what is the difference in the buildings, if you could say it quickly, between what we were just talking about and how people could differentiate them?
Both parties used the red brick, right? But we can see like Tartarian had more arches in the ceilings, right? So they had like probably they influenced all the architecturals and all the institutions that prepared architectures back then. But what we can see is the antique style is so-called Greco-Roman style, right? So if we have columns, if we have different gods with the half-naked looking view, right? We have this reconstruction signs of brick building. This is probably what was before, what was after the fall of Tartaria. So they did a huge reconstruction line in 19th century, and you have to understand that you have to check for the papers, for the blueprints for each and every building. So what they right now doing is that they naming the 17th century or 18th century building the 19th century building, because they don't show us the evidence of the process of the building. They show us only the pictures when we have like the finishing point, or maybe it could be a reconstruction, but they call it a building or construction of the building. So it's like very stupid. So a lack of this photo footage. At the same time, we have a bunch of pictures from different points at the same period of time. So they had the photos, but they didn't picture the constructions. Most likely, like what I see on the Capitolian building, we have like a picture of the final stage when they finished the dome, but we don't have the picture of the whole building. How did they build it? Maybe they were just reconstructing the old one and using the old foundation, maybe destroyed one, or even the Tartarian building, or maybe the building of the Russian Empire, who knows. But right now it looks like what it looks, and it looks like antique style building.
Yeah.
And we can call it the rebuilt building or renovated building in the style that was used by the ants or the Holy Roman empires.
Yeah, you see a lot of that style too used. In one area I go to a lot with my viewers is Governor's Island, and there's this star fort right there. And when you go right into the star fort, everything's red brick with white columns. And I'm just like, this is weird, because I thought this was something used in Europe only. Why are they doing that here? Why are they bringing that here? I always found that weird, but
yeah, they can explain it. It's just like say, oh, this was a migration. People were migrating, this stuff. But nobody can explain stuff like buried windows in the ground. So it's like what we see from what we hear from officials is like either horse crap theory or a cultural layer theory, which doesn't even hit the target.
I was listening to your video on the train tracks, and you were talking about that, how like they're trying to tell you, well, for every 20 years you get 1 centimeter of dirt. I'm like, well, how long would it take to cover these train tracks then? That's insane. It doesn't match up.
No, each year you have 1 centimeter. Each year, 20 years for 20 centimeters.
Oh, each year is a centimeter.
Yeah.
So again, like even at that rate, it doesn't nothing adds up. And to bury a train track, so for a lot of you don't know what I'm talking about, I urge you to go go search on Philip Drusen's channel. He's got a very good story about train tracks being buried in the mud flood, what we would call the mud flood or something like this. We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't just let them get buried over natural time. We would take those up. We would use them for other projects. We would smelt down the railways, use the wood. We wouldn't just let them disappear like that, but miles, like forever. Very interesting what's happening over there. And what caught my eye was that very long, I know this is an old video you had of yours, but it was that really long road that was perfectly straight. And I forget how long it went, but that blew my mind. I saw that last night. I was like, holy cow, I never even knew about this. There's a lot of weird things going over there, So let's talk about mud flood, since you brought it up now. Now, how do you feel this ties in now? You said with half buried windows.
Yeah, because if we have the gas empire, which was fracking the gas each and everywhere, so they probably left all this mining infrastructure, which was totally abandoned for certain centuries. So it could be locked with so-called cement or concrete, which miners do when they leave the area, right? And it could be even sealed, but who knows if a century passed, what would happen to this mine, right? So probably if the Tartarian area was bombed, or the Rosh area was bombed, we could say that it was heavily damaged by the bombing. So the whole infrastructure, this containment of ecological infrastructure was damaged, and maybe some strange processes could be igniting this mud flood, because all this mud and dirt would be composing with the high pressure that the oilers left after they sealed the area. So they, how they do the mining, they pump water inside those drilling holes, drilling tunnels, so that it can be pushing the gas or the oil through the drill hole.
Are you talking about fracking?
Yeah, I'm talking about every type of mining. So it's just it's used in different ways. So they just pump the water inside, and they press the oil or the gas towards the destination they want. They can do different types of technologies. They can shoot inside the drill hole. They can explode something. They can make a bubble. They can cement something. So this is a bunch of different technologies they use. But what we have to understand that this is when it's a closed system when it's working and it's okay. But when it's bombed and it's not contained, it's a huge danger for ecosystem. So if it was done on purpose and that whole infrastructure was bombed by somebody, like a carpet bombing or something like this, it could ignite a huge mud volcano or something like this, because a huge gas bubble could come up and just blow all this mud from the inside and press it outside. Also, we see a bunch of terracones, which could be also the byproducts of the miners, because miners are mining, and eventually, obviously, they bring up a whole bunch of mud from underneath, and so they use this mud to stock it as a byproduct terracone, which it looks like a little hill or a cone hill.
Yep.
So if you have a flooding nearby, which is caused by maybe a dam uh, break. So we have a blowing up the dam, and whole water from the dam is flooding down and touching all those terracones and bringing all this dirt towards the city, which is obviously
Nice.
this could be also the explanation, but it could be used in a complex way, because if it's offensive plan, it is a strategy to destroy a city or do a reset. It's all planned, and they know exactly what they do in each city, what kind of mudflood they create. Because some of the cities we see were not touched by the mudflood, like Cambridge. We see the evidence that no ground level was changing in 2 centuries in Cambridge, England. So
In
maybe
Cambridge, and you're saying Cambridge?
somebody, yeah, in Cambridge, England. So they posted the picture of the Cambridge at 18 something like this, 1801 or maybe 1811, and we see the picture of the modern days, and still the same level of the ground and no buried windows at all. But in most of the cities that we research and we confirm, we see a bunch of clay and mud on the streets, which are burying the first and second and third floors of the previous buildings. And that's what I try to fix, and try to fix this question, try to solve this problem, try to picture as much footage as I can so I can present it to everyone and encourage people to do their own research.
Yeah, I encourage people to do that too, because we all live in a major city. Well, most of us do, and you can easily go out, walk downtown, go to an old building, and be like, "Oh, damn, those windows are sunken in." I could do that here in Ottawa, Canada. I've actually put together some things on Google to show people a lot of the buildings are sunken. The only problem I have is that I can't get underneath the pavement to take samples. Is this clay? Is this dirt? What is this? But you walk around the building and it just doesn't look right. You're like, why would they do that to this building? And it's the whole street. All the windows are half buried. But I really liked what you said about the terracones. I never even thought about that, because I seen your video where they have like multiple hills. They look like little sharp, tiny mountains, right? And they're just
Yep.
piles of dirt falling on top of each other. We see that in modern day machinery. Very interesting that you said that they would set them up in certain positions and then blow the dam. I never even thought of that. Like, because I wanted to ask you this: is the mud flood isolated or is it worldwide? And I think it's both, but not worldwide, where like the whole world was affected at once, but isolated events worldwide. So I guess that's what you're saying with this, right?
I think this is strategy. If we have a strategy, we won't be able to solve this problem unless we are the part of the strategy. We are the participants or the actors of the strategy. So we don't have the plans, and but I can certainly say that it was happening in some period of time, which was close to like a decade or something like this. So maybe multiple events that were happening, like a chessboard in different parts of the world, but were parts of one uniting strategy, which was leading the world to totally have been resetted
Mm,
by those who control it. So, or it was simultaneous because people can exchange information, and we know people are so very good in surviving, right?
mm-hmm.
And that could be teaching them to do it simultaneously at one certain day when nobody is actually aware. So who knows?
That's incredible because yeah, you got to figure if we're talking about people being highly civilized back in the day and they had all this technology, you know that they could talk with each other real quickly. So it'd have to be all at
Yeah.
once, but in certain areas, not like the whole world at once, but like I said, in situational events where they could capitalize. Wow, that's great. So mud flood, um, during the were Tartarians giants or was it a mix?
Yeah, we have like a bunch of questions on the topic, like who are giants? Where are all the giants? Where are they? Like, where can we find the evidence? A bunch of evidence was found worldwide, but most of this evidence was, exterminated, and people who were researching the facts were laughed and left from all those scientific societies, and were left simply kicked out of the science. So what we see right now is we have a bunch of evidence which is coincidental. It's not direct. We cannot say like, here's a giant, right? Nobody can point at the giant, but we have a bunch of evidence that some humans can be taller than the rest of us, and be like 7 foot tall and maybe even 8 foot tall, right?
Yeah.
So that could lead us to some certain thinking that if those ancient people had all this infrastructure that was fitting for the giants and was created in respect to the giants, then probably they had giants, and probably they were taller than we are. And because all those rooms were huger, they had huger ceilings, so it's like impossible to do it for just for fun, or you know so probably they had a simple explanation. Everything that we see around this, it has simple explanation. We just don't want to take it, and we just don't want to admit it sometimes. But it is true that they had mirrors that were hanging higher than the ordinary mirrors for the ordinary persons. They had small doors, and they had a gigantic doors close to it. So probably they had both entrances for both sizes of humankind, for the giants and for the ordinary people. So what I've heard in my research, what I've not heard, but what I found in my research is that the giants were also the breeding work of the man. So people breed different races. People breeding were different biological and human beings. Also, the giants were breeding, and they were the continuous growing persons.
Okay.
This is the problem, because what we have right now, we have at a certain point we stop growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were never stopping grow their growth. This was the problem. They were growing more than we could imagine. So they were growing like for 100 years.
Oh, they just kept getting taller in every seed that every time
Yes,
a kid
yes, yes. That was the problem. So
that
that's,
will be a problem eventually.
yeah, because they were, they had to eat something. So
Yes, yes.
that's why they couldn't afford to hold one giant, more than one giant for one small town.
Hmm.
So each town had one or two giants, not very much.
They eat too much, guys. We can't have any more.
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
was
Eventually, everything is economics.
yeah, and this was my argument for why I feel dinosaurs never existed. I'm like, do you know how much it takes to feed an elephant? Think about a dinosaur. Like, how much green leaf is there on the planet, for all these dinosaurs to be eating? But that's another subject, but that's what it brought me to. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, can't feed these guys. They got to go.
Yeah, after the war, we don't have much forest, right? So that was the problem, because people started uh, feeling all this cold weather that was more extreme after the war. We didn't have pure water for a bunch of period of time, so it was like a year without the summer and all this stuff. So I could imagine it was very harmful conditions for the people to survive.
Probably was. So we how much time we got? We got 20 minutes left. I want to make sure I bring this part up because I really wanted to talk about it, and I'm screen sharing here. You have this video called Ancient Electricity. I'm not very good with science. I don't know negatives and positives. I kind of understand it, but I don't want to get into it. But I want to share this with people in the chat right now. This blew my mind that you came across this in this video about this gentleman being able to not just correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to hear, I'm going to play it for a minute. We're going to hear a radio wave, but without any speakers. Is this correct?
Yeah, it's simply the arch of electric arch or plasma arch. So it's simplified to that. So it's a plasma energy, the plasma energy that they could be receiving with this atmospheric electricity technology, atmospheric receivers. So all those spires are receivers of this plasma atmospheric electricity. Somebody calls it ether, somebody calls it atmospheric electricity, somebody calls it plasma or cold plasma. It has a bunch of great qualities like healing quality and all this bunch of qualities. So this is what we experienced during the Easter in the Holy Sepulchre Cathedral in Jerusalem, when we have all these people with the lights that is coming down from this plasma device that they have in this church.
Okay. So I'm just going to show people a quick clip right here. It's only going to take a couple seconds. Now, everybody that's watching on live chat, I'm just going to play this real quickly. You know how that goes on the show. We can't show that much. I'm going to show you a clip of this man. He's just pointing or connecting two wires together, just hanging from a telephone. We're going to get more to that in a sec. Just listen to this, and you're going to hear something. Listen. So I'll play that quickly one more time. So he's connecting these two wires and they're producing sound. I couldn't believe it. There's no speaker around. That's actually coming from the arc. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's insane. I never knew about that. And I just, like I said, I was watching your channel and I came across that. I was like, what? Can you add a little bit more? I know you were just talking about it, but that is insane technology.
This is simply from the elevation. So it's one wire was sticking from the height of this tower, this radio tower, abandoned radio tower, which has a huge height. So he was, pulling this wire from up there to the ground, and on the ground he was connecting two wires. And simply what we have is a radio wave, which was creating this plasma electric charge and an arc that we see.
That's crazy. I've never heard of that. So, and that ties in with the giants and the swords that you guys had. Because you're showing these. I'm going to show everybody again this screen here. I'm just going to switch screens again. Sorry. Let's do this. I was showing this last night during the live stream. There's some kind of festival here, and they're using electricity again. These people have these giant swords in their hands, and these aren't tiny swords. And I was showing this last night. These swords are 6 feet alone, just on their own. These handles are large, but in these pictures you see they're wielding these swords. There's, I guess, plasma or electricity coming off of them. Are they wearing armored suits in here, and that's why you were showing all these armored suits here? Is that what we're seeing?
I don't think that the painter was doing it so detailed, but who knows? Maybe they were just having some properties, like they were like isolated, close. Who knows? But the painter was painting the general picture, what you see right now is you zooming in a huge picture, right? And he was not detailizing all this picture towards the clothes, but we can see they had some signs of different clothes at least. But who knows? I don't see any armor on them, but who knows? Maybe they were using some isolation in their clothes, maybe something that we just can't see.
Incredible. So is this just for show? Are they just like, hey, look, we
I
can
think you know what the general question is: can we have all those technological boom in 19th century? So it's like because they had known a bunch of different scientists since uh, Middle Ages, right? That's what they tell us in general version. But what we see right now is that they were handling with electricity and plasmic charges in 16th and 17th century. That could prove us that they either erased maybe a couple of centuries for us and pulled it together, tied it with 19th century, or pulled back the stretch the timeline. They were stretching the timeline so we can be confused with all this technology and cannot explain where it came from, because actually the steam power is also unexplainable, because we have it, this technology, we use it right now in our cars, and we cannot invent anything better since then.
Yes, and I just saw an article, and I saw your video on the car that was powered by wood. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, we have it like a guy who's making the car from the hydrogen, and it's like you can fuel it with the water, and water is separating for hydrogen, and the hydrogen is burning in the internal combustion engine. So it's like the same technology, just a different fuel.
Because there's something else, and there's another one. There's a tanks now in war, and I just came across this, and because I do this series called Tech Before Its Time, where I just see this technology that shouldn't exist. Now this ties in with our community, the Mandela Effect community, where we see things that just shouldn't be around. And then I came across a tank in war being powered by wood, and I couldn't believe it. And they showed the same kind of structure you had on that vehicle, this long tube where you would insert a piece of wood, then it would power these vehicles. And now we're seeing plasma or electricity or whatever people want to call it. And you're absolutely right. What happened to all this technology, and where did it go? Do you believe, so there's the years let's say 1990. Are you a big believer of like them replacing that first number 1 with an I or a J? Do you know anything about that to change
Yeah,
length of our history?
we is what we can observe. We see this J everywhere. So who knows what does it really mean? Is it the style that they wrote the number 1, but by sometimes we have a 1 in the same line and it's different from the first one, which is looking totally like J. So that kind of proves that it was a different number or different word or different letter that meant different things. So just like 11 could be not just a 2, like the Richard II could be Richard 11, or maybe Richard double L, which is Roman numbers, or Richard double I, which is also Roman number. So it's all symbolism, and the science of this symbolism is very ancient. So they codified each and everything back then. So we are like very dumb. We have right now what we have is personal computers that help us think, but back then we were supposed to think by ourselves, and were taught by our parents and our ancestors to survive. This is the difference. So right now we're like little kids. We don't know what to do with this.
Yes. I believe that. I feel like I'm a little child, like given all this information. I'm like, well, what do I do with this? And I keep saying this to my viewers. What do I do with this information? I'm like, okay, great. There's Tartarian. Now what? Oh, great. We have all this energy. Now what? Because what are we supposed to do? It's not like we're going to get a hold of it and then use it for good. We've still got a lot of fighting. Like I wouldn't say physical fighting, but a lot of battles that go on. how do we get all this stuff back? It was taken away from us, I believe. Um, do you have any info on that? Like, because I remember Jeff talking about this video. He's like, I feel like it's a parasitic attack from the inside. How would you go about fighting this battle that he was talking about?
The problem of the parasite, they could eventually lose, even though they were winning for a huge period of time, right?
Mhm.
But this is the only thing they can be afraid, and that's why they don't want to lose, and they will never lose. So right now, what we have is just a window of opportunity between the reset and the preparation period. So if we wake up as much people as we can, maybe we could wake up some strong person that
Mhm.
could eventually tell us what to do with this information. So it's like we stick in our heads from the sheeple that we are surrounded, and like watching, nobody's around also watching. So it's like you're alone, you're totally alone.
Mhm.
Right now we have like sticking and we see, oh, back there in Canada, we also one ship is looking around. Yeah. And here in New York one, and here's in Liverpool. And right now we see each other. And this is okay. So I think we have a window of opportunity right now. This is the era that we can change something. And they're not even hiding, they're not even hiding. They're showing exactly what they want to do. And right now they're practicing, I think. They're trying to practice it. What we had like in Brazil a couple of days ago, or maybe a week ago, uh, also a great example of how it could happen as a mud flood. Just the same situation, mining corporation, damp,
I
and the
just
mud
saw
flood.
that. Yeah, I actually just saw that just happened, right? It was on the news. Yeah.
Remember Indonesia when we had a mud volcano suddenly occasionally erupting for a couple of maybe already 5 years or 6 years
Mm.
since the mining drilling there? Mining corporation was leaving the place and they were drilling there, and they probably caused that mud volcano to come up. And right now whole area is covered with the mud. It's growing and growing and nobody could stop it for a
Mm.
bunch of years. So I don't know what's going to be happening, but we're going to be revealing more of those cases that could be proving us that the mining is not very good. In fact, if it's not advanced mining, if it's not the mining for the profits that we have today.
Okay. And so do you believe every square inch of the earth has been mined?
Yep. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
It's clearly visible.
Okay. Because there's a lot of mountain ranges that are in the United States that they don't look like they do look like they've been mined, but it's like they share other resemblances to like electricity, being used on a large scale. The Grand Canyon, a lot of people like to think, and I lean towards this too, is that it was created through a huge electric explosion. But again, I don't know too much about electricity and the effects of it, so I won't get into that. I've never pushed that idea, but I'm like, man, it does look like something big happened there. Because then when you look at the surrounding area, you see nothing but red rock. All soil has been ripped from that area, and then it tapers off the further you get away. Do you have any theories on what happened with Grand Canyon or any structures like the Grand Canyon, or is this just strictly mining?
Well, I never been to Grand Canyon, but what I've seen on the pictures, it looks like it was mine. But cannot confirm it totally because you have to have a closer look or maybe better pictures with better. You have to understand that the water eruption, which they explain everything that they see, they're saying like it was a water eruption or it was. Not the water eruption, but erosion, water erosion. They
Yeah.
explain it with everything they see, they explain it with water erosion. It's a water erosion, right? It's a water erosion. Don't mind, don't bother. But if you look in a general, not in some certain area, but if you look in the general, you see a bigger picture, and you can see that it's everywhere the same.
Yeah.
So we have this traces of some mechanisms everywhere, and this is not a natural mark. This is a mark of the rotor excavation We also use it nowadays, and you can compare what you see in the modern pictures, in the modern quarries, huge mining areas that we have today, and what you see on the pictures of Grand Canyon and many other different places. And you can make your own, comparison and resume on the topic, right?
I really liked what you said about the sand, the oil sands that are around the Middle East, and that's what they're a product of mining out the oceans, and they would just dump all the sand on the land. Am I correct in saying this?
Yeah. It's a bitumen sand, whatever. Maybe you don't have this name in British, in English. Bitumen is some type of oily, heavy structure, which is could be used in different areas, even plastic production, all this stuff. So you have to mine it. In fact, Venezuela has a bunch of these bitumen sands. You call them probably oil sands, but it's a bitumen. It's not oil. It's heavier than oil. It's more oily oil, right? It's more heavy. So you in Russia we use it for heating. Also, we use it for different because we have extreme temperatures, and sometimes it's the only thing that can be burned uh, to survive. In fact, so. Whatever. So the bitumen sands or the oil sands could be also brought from the oceans, or the oceans could be the sunken quarries of the previous times. So it's like a merry-go-round. The bigger civilizations, and after the big resets, which could also be preceded because we see a bunch of, bunch of legends and evidence, like in general, that something bigger, and a lot bigger was before those empires that we know, before the biblical times, before this couple of thousand years of modern history. So something bigger could be happened. So if we admit that and say that it could be true, that we could name all those big cities or big seas marks that we see, mining marks, also rotor excavation marks in the seas on the Google programs that we can observe. Also could be the marks of the previous mining and the bigger mining that we even know today.
I've seen those tracks on the ocean floor. A lot of the viewers, my regular viewers, have seen the same similar things, and they're very weird tracks. And I've never, I don't know what to make of them because it's the ocean floor and it's Google Earth. I don't know how well we can detect the ocean floor, but I'm going to assume pretty damn well, considering sonar radar and just. I freeze from using the word satellite dishes, guys, but something like that along those ways. It's amazing seeing these things on the floor, and then they're all going in weird ways. And now when I think about it, I'm like, maybe those are just really big machines and they could just go across the ocean, no problem. We don't know. We really don't know what's going on back in the day. So wow, that was a lot of talk about. We're at the 1 hour mark now, Philip. Do you have much time? How much time do you have left? Because I don't want to.
Yeah, probably maybe 10 minutes we can do it.
10 minutes. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to type in an eagle sign on the chat. If you have any questions, please type in that lone eagle and then ask your question for Philip. If not, I'm just going to chit chat with him a bit more. I could definitely. There's lots to talk about. I've been watching your channel for 3 days, 2 weeks before this. How long have you been talking about Tartarian for?
Oh, I'm known about Tartaria since 1999.
1999.
So like the exact date when the first time I've seen the map of Tartaria. Then it was like a bunch of years when everybody was talking about the same map, and when we saw Putin in 2007 or 8, something like this, and the Putin got shown a bunch of these maps, and most of them were with the name of Tartaria, and they were Western maps and a couple of Russian maps. So most of them were Western maps with the Latin alphabet, and only 3 or 5 were Russian. So probably Tartaria came from this name, and this topic was a leak, and probably it was a leak from those who started researching Russian history, alternative history, after the information about the so-called Vedas, Russian Vedas.
Okay.
Vedas are, Indian books from India.
I've never heard of them.
It's like a India Bible. It's like it's not close to Buddhism, but pretty much close, right? So it's pretty much the same culture, and they have all these Mahabharata books, a bunch of Vedas. Yoga is from India. It's all the same culture. All this
Mhm.
Eastern India, all this spirituality, all this stuff. So all this Tibet. This is all the same culture. So even Nazis were visiting them. So when I heard that Indians were visiting our town, we asked them, "Well, what are you doing here? You guys, like yogas. Well, what do you do here? We have like Christianity here.
Mhm. Yeah,
What the heck? What the heck are you doing?" They said, "We have a teacher who told us that in the previous reincarnation, when he was serving Hanuman, the uh, um, the so-called ape god of Indian Vedas period of time, and even in China, he's a great god. So when he was serving Hanuman in this area, in this temple of Tara, the temple of Tara,
Emperor of Tara. Okay.
he was he wanted us to visit this place and tell him in our spiritual contact how does it look today. So I said, where was the temple? They said, exactly here. So you know how this place is called right now? They said, we don't know. I said, this is the river called Tara, and we have a city nearby which is also called Tara, like a couple of miles from there. So they were astonished because they were visiting. They said, "You are living in the city of Omsk." We said, "Yes. Om is the great sound in our culture. Om is like a sound we start all our spiritual contexts. It's like Om." So I was living in the city of Omsk, and right nearby we had the city of Tara, which is also Tartaria. Tara and Tar are the sibling brother gods of those era. So it's like the same culture, and right now we see breaking pieces, breaking puzzles from different regions, from different worlds, and like people meeting each other, talking to each other, and bringing this information, which bringing us to the paradigm that we lost.
Nice. That's a good one. I like that. All right. So 1999. All right. I got a question from Lady Zaga. She's asking about Tartarian monsters. Have you ever heard anything like this?
Well, the books that Western books that were explaining explaining, not explaining, but covering the trips to Tartaria or the area. It was all after the war. So after the war, exactly, it was like a bunch of maybe some monsters from the previous era who were like oh, the only thing they could do is like survive and eat. So maybe somebody even was hunting people, who knows. But it was the era after the war, so after the war all the methods are good for survival. So probably those texts that we can read today and that can scare us as what Tartarians were barbaric or something like this
Yeah.
they don't correlate with the pictures. They don't correlate with the architecture or the culture of those lands today. So it's like most likely like Soviet Union, like it was an enemy and all the propaganda was against it, and calling it different names and all this stuff like this. So it's like commies, all
Yeah.
those commies, and like it's like about Nazis to say Nazis, whatever nation is in not in a great favor, they've been calling them names,
Yeah.
and so it's like this is how you treat your enemy. So it's like you do your propaganda. That's why how you motivate your people to kill your enemy, right? It's
Exactly.
by calling names, because when you add a brand which nobody respects, it's easy to kill.
Yeah. It is. And yeah, and I believe you me, I understand all about that. All right, thank you very much. So we got a question from Cupcakes A. How many resets have there been?
As far as I know, at least one.
One, because we don't
At least one. At least one. At least one. But I tend to say that two or more.
know. Okay. Yeah, I'll go with one, at least one, because we can see it. After that, I think it'd be really hard to tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. So this one is from Sikh Bhavik. How come no evidence in India of mud floods? Is this true? Is there evidence of mud
Well,
floods?
we have a bunch of devastation pictures that show a bunch of devastation in India. So it's like, how
Okay.
do you explain? The history of India is very strange in the Middle Ages. Like, we have a great Indian civilization that was fighting and stopped the Alexander the Great in his conquerance, that was before the Christ era, and then suddenly it degrades and uh, falls from Mongolian conquerors and all this stuff. So it's like, and where do you place Tartaria back then? If you see it on the maps, where was India if you had Tartaria at the same time? So it's like, was it a region of Tartaria? Was it a part of Tartaria? Was it a sovereign state? So it's like the question of propaganda. So, and we have a bunch of photo pictures that were made by those who were using the first photographs in 19th century in India. And I put it in the timeline exactly after the mud flood period. So it's like 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, and we see a whole bunch of devastation there. So
Mhm.
you
So there's
guys found a bunch of sites in India where you claim it to be a nuclear bomb, and we had a bunch of those sensational reports about this Indian city was probably nuclear bomb, or that Indian city was probably, and we have all those ruins in India, which is excavated. They've been excavating it for a century or even more in India. Look how many evidence do you have? And all of it was excavated. So answer yourself how it was covered with the mud then, how it was covered with the dirt. How wasn't it destroyed by those who were erasing your Indian culture? How did you get Muslim half population? Just ask yourself a bunch of questions.
yes, exactly. And question everything, all your surroundings too, and it doesn't matter how simple the question may be. And talk to people, and that's why I push that all the time. You cannot solve anything. You cannot grow if you're always by yourself. You need to be around people. You need to educate yourself with other people's information. So get out there and talk. Okay, so another question here. We get one more question. Let's see, let's get a pick one here.
Just be lucky, pick one.
So, okay, here's one from Drop because he put up my name. Does he think Prussia, which ruled for 500 years, was Tartaria too?
Prussia.
Prussia.
Prussia. Prussia was the part of Holy Roman Empire, so it's probably uh, Russia and Prussia is probably the same slices of the bigger one. So they just cut all these slices each time and add it to the European Western world. So they were switching the paradigm towards the Christianity and towards Catholicism and Protestantism and whatever religion the people could pick. If it was under control, they used it, and they were using it through the orders, so-called orders, which right now called Jesuit order, Malta order, Templier order, and a whole bunch of orders. It's just military organization where they pick the elites from each and every community and use those people to create a deep state. So that's what we have today. We have a deep state where nobody knows who's in charge, and actually, you have to take a look for on this. You have to see a bigger picture. It's like you have to. You see a couple of trees in front of you, but this doesn't mean it's a huge forest, right?
Yeah.
Just step back and check it out. There's no forest, right? You have only 2 trees.
That's the wise words right there. All right, so I'm going to end with the questions. I guess that'll be it, Philip. Thank you very much. You've given me enough of your time. Thank you so very much. This was a great show. I was excited all week since we first got in contact. I just could not wait for this day to come. But do you have anything you want to leave? Do you have anything you want to say to everybody to maybe step up on, or have you said everything?
Yeah, I think people can easily find me via my name, or just type in Mudflat into the search, and probably they could find it. But it would be good if you schedule one more or two more chats for us, like in further times, maybe sometime else, and you have some questions in the chat, so we can be more prepared to answer the specific question of the people. You have a bunch of subscribers, in fact, and I wonder why no questions today. Maybe because we explained it very good. Maybe
they'll come in. They'll come in, and it's the live is a very weird thing. I try and do different things with live streams. The more it's after live stream and everything comes in. And I've noticed all my videos, because like with live you get 100 awesome people who showed up today. Thank you very much. But it's after is when you get the thousands that are watching it. So those I'm gonna be re-editing this video. Believe me, there's gonna be questions coming in. But yes, thank you very much, Philip. Honored to have you on the show. We will definitely reach out again, and we'll be more structured. We'll have more questions for this, and we'll talk again. I'd love to have you on again. And same with you. If you want me to join your show, I would love to.
yeah.
But
maybe we could do that. Okay, let's let that sink in and wait for the more comments and schedule one more time, or maybe in a further period. So contact me as soon as you want it, and so we can do it.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you very much, Philip. Have a great day in Moscow, and stay warm, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot. See you later.
See ya. Thank you.
Yeah.
La, la, la. Hold on here.